Welcome to Psalm 128. Happy are the ones fearing the Lord. It begins, O thee, ton anavath mon. Ode of the steps. This is the 9th step out of 15. I'll read some in the Greek. Makarii pantas e fovumeni ton kyrion e porevomeni en tes odisaf tu. Tus ponus ton carpon su fagus the. Makarios e ke kalosi este. Blessed are all the ones fearing the Lord, going in his ways. As I mentioned before, the last video seminar, I got it going into this psalm. Makarios is a difficult word, as I've been told by a Greek to translate into English. Happy and blessed, don't even do it, maybe both together, but whichever, happy and blessed, are all the ones fearing the Lord, going in his ways. Two main key words here, fearing and ways. We'll go through these in the New Testament. The fearing, in Matthew 10:26, Jesus says, you should not then fear them, the ones persecuting us. So fearing God and going in his ways, but also just general fearing. Jesus says not to fear them. And then he says, and fear not from the ones killing the body, but not being able to kill the soul. But you fear rather the one being able both soul and body to destroy in Gehenna. So fearing the Lord is something that we need to do. Don't take him for granted. He is able to send people to Gehenna, to Hades, forever. They'll never get out. It's horrible. You think of the things, the bad things that are happening in the world, the Lord allows them to happen. He allows lions to eat lambs. People kill each other. Horrible, horrible things. You have to remember that God has allowed this. And if God has allowed this, but he has given us directions of what we should and not should do, what we are to do, and we don't do them, then he can do some terrible things to that person that is not going along in his ways. And we as Christians should fear him. I do fear God. I've always had a fear of going to jail, spending 1 hour. I've never spent an hour in a jail. I have a fear of it. And I have a fear of God because I know he could send me to eternal jail. But it says in Luke 1:50, Jesus, his mercy is for generations of generations to the ones fearing him. So we have mercy on down and down and down to ones that fear him, to families and so forth. Luke 5:10, he says, fear not, from now on you will be taking men alive. So Jesus says a lot about fearing, for us not to fear if we were walking with him. Now, fearing the Lord is one thing, and doing the things, but if we are doing them and we're going with him, then we don't have to fear if something bad is going to happen, because it says in Luke 12:7, but even the hairs of your head have all been counted. Do not then fear. You're different than many sparrows. The idea of God knowing every single thing going on in the world. He's created it. He knows everything that's going on down to the minute DNA, out to the furthest star. He knows everything. So if he knows all these things and we're walking with him, then we do not have to fear. Luke 12:32, he says, fear not, small flock, for the Father thinks well to give to you the kingdom. Again, being in the flock, being with Jesus as the shepherd, we're not to fear. For the Father thinks well to give to us the kingdom. He has something promised to us, a kingdom of some sort on this earth, but a kingdom that will be more obvious in the next, when we cross over from this world to the next. And then in John 12:15, he says, "Fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king comes sitting to you. He comes sitting upon the foal of a donkey." So to Israel was not to fear Jesus, but it seems like they did fear him. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, it says in a few places that they feared the power that would be taken away from them, and so they feared the things of Christ, that he could harm their power. Now, who has had fear in the New Testament? The disciples. Many places it says in Matthew 14:30, "But seeing the strong wind," that is Peter, "he feared, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, 'O Lord, save me!'" And when they're sinking, so not fearing is easy to say. I don't want to denigrate what Jesus is saying, but he can say not to fear, but when you're drowning, fear does come. If you're in a death situation, you could lose your life. I'm sure fearing would be fairly natural, even if you're walking with the Lord. But if it can pop into your brain when this is happening, not to fear, so be it. That's good. In Matthew 17:6, the disciples says, "The hearing fell upon their face, and were fearful exceedingly. And coming forward, Jesus touched them and said, 'Rise, and be not fearful.'" And this was on the Mount of Transfiguration, where they heard the voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, whom I am well pleased." In Matthew 28:10, then it says, "Then Jesus says to them, 'Fear not. Go, report to my brothers that they should go forth into Galilee, and there they shall see me.'" And that was to Mary Magdalene and the other Mary when he rose from the dead and he was in the garden. He told them. But there are a lot of other places where people were fearful. The shepherds, when they saw the angels, when they were taking care of their flocks, that's in Luke 2:9. Matthew 5:15, the disciples were fearful when they saw the demon-possessed man having the demon cast out. This is like, whoa, this is really fearful. I mean, he has a lot of power. A woman who was healed from the flow in Mark 5:33, when she realized what happened, she was fearful, maybe fearful of being humiliated or whatever. And then the chief of the synagogue, when he heard his child had died, was fearful, and Jesus said for him not to be fearful, Mark 5:36. When Jesus calmed the sea in the boat with the disciples, Luke 8:25, they were all fearful of the storm. They saw Jesus walking on the water. They yelled out. They were fearful. You don't go seeing somebody walking on water, thought it was a ghost. In John 6:19. And then it says they were afraid to ask Jesus about when he forecasted his death. And that was in Mark 9:32. And then Zacharias, when he was in the temple and the angel appeared to him, became fearful. And that's in Luke 1:13. And the last other word that appears in verse 1 is his ways. What are his ways? The Matthew 3:3, it says, he says, "Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his roads," the way of the Lord. And this is what we are to go, his way. Luke 3:5, it says, "Every ravine shall be filled, and every mountain and hill shall be lowered, and the crooked will be for straight, and the rough for smooth ways." And that's spiritual and allegory of life in general, I believe. The problems will be lowered if you're walking with him. Crooked ways that you're going on will be straight. You'll no longer be going on these crooked ways that are hard and the rough ways. And if you're going on a cart or an automobile, they'll be made smooth walking with Christ. In John 4:14, Jesus says, "And where I go, you know, and the way you know." And Thomas says to him, "O Lord, we know not where you go, and how are we able then to know the way? If we don't know where you're going." Jesus says to him, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father unless through me." A spiritual way, and this is the way that we are to take. Not a physical way, not a freeway or a highway, but a spiritual way. In Hebrews 10:20 it says, "Which he dedicated to us a way newly made and living through the veil," that is to say, his flesh. And he's talking about the way of righteousness here. But there is also the way. And the way is more specific. It says in Acts 9, 1-2, and it says, "And Saul, he asked from him letters for Damascus to the synagogue, so that if any should be found being of the way, both men and women, having bound them, he should lead them unto Jerusalem." They're of the way. And this is it wasn't called the church. There's no churches. He didn't say he went and grabbed the church. The people are of the way. In Acts 18:24-26, it says, "And a certain Jew, Apollos by name, an Alexandrian by race, a learned man, arrived in Ephesus, being mighty in the Scriptures." And this one was being instructed in the way of the Lord. Now, you would think the way of the Lord would be the way of Jesus. I've always was questioning this because it's like, well, if he knows the way of the Lord, then what happens next is kind of strange. But now, in the Old Testament, Kyrios is God. And I think this is what it's talking about, not the Lord Jesus, but the Lord of the Old Testament, Kyrios. And here it's Kyriou of the genitive. And he was bubbling in spirit and spoke and taught exactly the things concerning the Lord, Kyrios, having knowledge of only the immersion of John. So here he couldn't know anything about Jesus. He only knew about the immersion of John. He probably saw it and then left and didn't know anything about Jesus. And that makes more sense than I just seeing it now. I've studied the Bible for 50 years. And it says, this one, Apollos, also began to speak openly in the synagogue. Then Aquila and Priscilla, having heard him, took him to themselves and more exactly expounded to him the way of God. And I believe that is referring to Jesus. And he wanting to go through, and it continues, but they expounded the way of God. Interesting. Then the way in Acts 19:9 says, "But when some were hardened and resisted persuasion, speaking evil of the way before the multitude." So people had heard about this way and were saying bad things about it. In Acts 19:23, it says, "And came to pass, according to that time, not a little disturbance concerning the way." And it was in, where was that? Philippi, where they were teaching things about idolatry and so forth, and people knew this as the way, even the people that weren't Jews. And then it says in Acts 22:4, one who this way unto death, and that was Paul who said that's what he did. In Acts 24:14, it says, "But I acknowledge this to you, that according to the way which they call a sect, so I serve." Paul says that. They called it a sect. In Acts 24:22, it says, "And hearing these things, Felix, the governor, postponed them, more exactly knowing the things concerning the way." So we see the early, not the church, the early way is what it was all about. It was a way. And the church isn't mentioned that much right here. We do go into churches and the gatherings of the people, the assembly, but I thought I'd bring this out about the way. I think it's very interesting. Now, going back up to verse 2 of 128, it says, "The toils of your carpone, of your wrists, you shall eat." That is your work. You can add this to your English derivative book, 2590.1. We have carpone, which is your wrist, and we have, for a derivative, the carpal tunnel syndrome, which is in physical ailment of the wrists. "Blessed are you, and well it will be to you." And then walking in the way, and working is part of it. Your wife is as a grapevine prospering on the sides of your house, a figure of speech, but it's a wife is as. But here, your sons as newly planted olive plants round about your table. Well, now their sons are not newly planted olive, but they're wonderful. It's good to have. You have this grapes on the side of your house and a bunch of olive trees all around where you can make olive oil and eat the olives. It's wonderful in the way of God taking care of us. "Behold, thus the man fearing the Lord shall be blessed." And again, that was what we went earlier, all about fearing the Lord. "May the Lord bless you from out of Zion." And Zion, may the Lord bless you from out of Zion. That's a place that's generally attributed to Jerusalem. And somebody will say, well, where else would it be? Well, we'll find out here. But all the places that it mentions Zion in the New Testament are as follows. In Matthew 21:5 and John 12:15, it talks about the daughters of Zion. Then in Romans 9:33, it says, "As it has been written, behold, I put in Zion a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, and everyone believing upon him shall not be disgraced." Of course, that's Jesus, which many were stumbled. In Romans 11:26, it says, "And so all Israel shall be delivered, as it has been written, the one rescuing shall come from out of Zion, and shall turn impious deeds from Jacob." And that, of course, Jesus came from Zion. And now, which Zion is he coming from? Here we'll find out. The next verse, Hebrews 12:22, "But you have come forward to Mount Zion." We are going to Mount Zion and the city of the living God, heavenly Jerusalem. The new Jerusalem comes down in Revelations. We've talked about so many places, and we're going to go there to the heavenly rooms. That's Mount Zion, and to the myriad of angels. And Jesus, the one rescuing, shall come from out of Zion. Now you could look at worldly Jerusalem, which he came out of, or from the Zion of the heavenly New Jerusalem. 1 Peter 2:6, again he says, "Behold, I place in Zion a chosen, valued cornering stone, and the one believing upon him in no way shall be disgraced." Another quotation of the Old Testament. And then it concludes, "And I saw, and behold, a lamb standing upon Mount Zion, and with him 144,000. Now, which Mount Zion is this? The Mount Zion of the New Jerusalem, which he saw, or was it 144,000 on the earthly city of Mount Zion? Doesn't use the word Jerusalem in the book of Revelation, only the New Jerusalem. So that's what I'm thinking it's talking about here, and not upon the earth, but could be. But we're going now back to verse 5 and 128, and it ends, and may you behold the good things of Jerusalem all the days of your life. And this is what these people know. They know Jerusalem. They haven't heard anything about the heavenly Zion. They know, and this is a good thing for them, Jerusalem. But Jerusalem was destroyed. So all the good things they didn't take in, unfortunately. And he says, and may you behold the sons of your sons, peace upon Israel. Psalm 129, the Lord is just. That is interesting, to be just. If you're just, you will give out justice, and we'll find out all about how the Lord is just in Psalm 129. Hope you'll join us. Until then, God bless.